Welcome in. Monday is here. What a weekend of college football action. And it is indeed that fateful week that so many of you have been looking forward to. Some of you are very excited. Others a little bit disappointed as to what's about to come. We're going to allow more people to come in here before we get into our big reveal. And before we get into our big weekend, hop down to the chat as we have some people already in here. Bama Fanatic saying, what up? Glad you're with us this morning. Bama Fanatic Chicken saying, Boomer Sooner Tide, just say no to that dang orange shirt. I know a Rico attorney who can help you. Man, unfortunately, Chicken, a bet is a bet. It is what it is. Steven says it's going to hurt. He's seeing Ty in that orange. Yeah, it is what it is. Steven says, I love that jacket. Actually, Coach Smook, if you're in here, the venue right down in Richmond, Virginia, that's where I picked this up right here. But as we're starting to get going, guys, we have to have a little bit of a conversation because before this year started, I made a bet with several of you, the viewers, right? And that's one of the things we love to do here on this show. I think that's one of the things that really separates this show from some other ones. And some of the guys you see on here all the time, one of the things we do is we're real interactive with all of you because without you, none of this happens. So I entered into a bet for that Texas-Alabama game. I bet that the Alabama Crimson Tide would beat the Texas Longhorns, and some of the faithful Texas supporters of this channel stated, we think that Texas is going to pull out on top. However, if they do tie, how about we enter into a bet during the Texas OU week, because so many of my friends who do college football content are OU fans and Texas fans, but we have a big collection of OU guys who feature on the channel. How about you wear a Texas shirt during that week? And I agreed. Well, Alabama lost that game, and the fateful week is here. I have good news and I have bad news. Something happened with the home field order, and it went somewhere that it was not supposed to. Fear not. We have reordered from home field. What we are going to do is now every shirt we ordered from home field will be a giveaway shirt. Once they come in, we will run a giveaway. So 3 Texas shirts will be given away. But don't think I'm leaving you high and dry. Even though the home field stuff isn't here, I'm popping out like Clark Kent out the cut. And we're rolling with the orange shirt. I know, get your booze out the way right now. Throw your pies, throw your rotten fruit. It is what it is, but a bet's a bet, ladies and gentlemen. A bet's a bet. I have to keep my word on this. So for this week, we're going to be rolling out in the Longhorn orange because that's what I stated I would do. It's all in good fun. The only time you will not see me in the Longhorn orange is this afternoon on the Bleacher Report app, as I will be covering the Alabama Crimson Tide on Bleacher Report. I think we can all agree that's a fair out for me, that one instance. Other than that, this is what it is. So with that out the way, guys, we need to turn our attention to some college football games from this weekend because what a weekend it was. And we have some new segments we need to talk about. We have the biggest blunders of the week. We have the game of the weekend. And then I'm going to tell you all the team that really just disappointed me, right? We're going to have Ran in here. I know you love it, Ran. I know you love it. Thank you, Ran. Guys, and this is what it's all about. Ran is someone who's been around this channel since the first 1,500, 2,000 subscribers, right? Lucian, much the same. I remember watching your comments come through when I was first making content. Daryl as well. This is what it is, right? We like to have fun over here, and this makes it a lot more fun. You guys make this a lot more fun, so it's easy for me to stand by a bet whenever you guys make this so enjoyable. I mean, this is basically therapy for me and for everybody. So we're going to kick this off with the game of the weekend, and I don't think I really need to talk about this very much. What Baylor did against UCF this week, and I almost said UFC. I've been watching UFC, as you can tell. What Baylor did against UCF this weekend was incredible. Truly one of the craziest moments we may see this college football season. Going from 28 down to winning the game, what they did was unbelievable. And this is coming in a year where so many questions are being asked. What's next for Dave Aranda? What's next for the Baylor Bears? It has not been that banner year so many of the Bears faithful would have hoped they would have, but they get an incredible win. And sometimes how you win is just as important as the win itself. And what I mean when I say that is that was a situation where Baylor never stopped fighting. And if you're going to lose a game, that's fine. Every team out there is going to lose a game. But this is why I always say, not all wins are created equal. Not all losses are created equal. How did you arrive at that destination? Let's unpack how Baylor arrived at that destination. They never stopped fighting. Baylor never stopped fighting in that game. It didn't matter what the outlook was. It didn't matter what everybody thought was going to happen. They kept playing football as if it was 0-0 the entire game. And that is incredibly commendable. That was very impressive because there's a lot of other teams out there that probably would have laid down in that instant. You're down by so much. You're away from home. You're getting your teeth kicked in. There's a lot of other teams that would have laid down. And I think a lot of fans of a lot of other teams would have understood. But that's not what they did. Baylor fought, and they came out with an incredible win. It's got to be the win of the weekend. I understand there's not playoff implications for this win, but this win is exactly what makes college football so special. A game where it all looked like it was decided, and Baylor just told themselves, we're not going to quit fighting. Because if we don't quit, there's a chance. They pull out with an unbelievable win. Hats off to the Bears. Biggest blunders of the week. And boy, do I have some teams for you. Florida versus Kentucky. What in the world happened in this game? My goodness. Eric, thank you for coming in here. As if y'all are coming in here, we lost the bet. That's why you see me in the Texas orange. It is what it is. We're going to have a fantastic week because this is one of the best weeks of the year. Not of the football season. I almost misspoke. Of the year. So, moving forward to some of the blunder games, right? Florida, Kentucky. I was sending in our group chat that I thought that Ray may genuinely push for 1,000 yards in this game. It was wild. There was a point in this game where Devin Leary had less than 40 yards and Kentucky was kicking Florida's teeth in. Now, the reason why this game is so wild to me is I actually picked the Florida Gators to win this game on Bleacher Report. I know, boy, that pick did not go my way. In fact, coming off of the week I had last week where it was such a good week, this week, not as good. And a big reason why was that Florida game. It wasn't the way I thought Florida would lose that game. Obviously, it was a losable game for the Florida Gators. If you looked at the line before that game, it was something like 2 points. So Vegas knew this game would be close. It was not close. It was not close at all. In no way, shape, or form was that game close. Whenever you have a team that can genuinely say, I don't have to worry about throwing the ball ever, I'm just going to run it at you and we'll probably get more yards of offense than you get all game, you're not going to win. And this is a situation where Florida now takes their second loss of the season. First loss in SEC play. And this one, to me, I don't know if you can say it's worse, but I think there is an argument that it's worse. Because Devin Leary went 9 of 20, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown. You lost by 19. They didn't have a 100-yard passer. He hit less than 50%. You only had to worry about one thing. And that's Davis. 26 carries, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns. If we look at this, Florida outgained them through the air. But whenever you give up 320 rushing yards, you're going to lose. Because the rushing game, ladies and gentlemen, is a game of physicality. And we've always said on this channel, a great predeterminant for who can win a game, which team is more physical. Which team is more physical? That's going to be the team that wins this game. I picked Florida for the following reasons. Up until this game, Leary is a guy I know who's really good. We watched him be really good last year. It has not come together in a Kentucky uniform thus far. He's been up and down all over the place. I looked across the aisle and I saw Florida with Mertz, with that offensive line that's still a work in progress. But if they can get their hands on you and start really pushing the run, they can be effective. Then I looked at that running back room and I had to ask myself, okay, Florida has lost the previous 2 times they've played Kentucky. Billy Napier has not beat Kentucky. This feels like a prove-it game for Florida. They got a big win 2 weeks ago, backed it up with a win that you would have hoped for a bit more last week, but, it is what it is. And then I look at Kentucky. Your offense has been there, but your quarterback play hasn't been consistent. And then I'm looking at two defenses who rank among the better defenses in the SEC. And so, as always, when you start doing analysis, I start breaking it down by where do my questions lie? And who answers my questions? Well, coming into this game, I thought Mertz had been better for Florida than Leary had been for Kentucky. Now, that being said, I don't think either of them have been largely the problem at all. And it didn't matter because Mertz went over 230 yards. He had an interception, but he had some touchdowns. It didn't matter. If you cannot stop the run, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have a really bad time. DCC Drum says that shirt, isn't it? I lost a bet, man. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's all in good fun, man. It's all in good fun. Texas had, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that Texas game. Florida defensive coordinator used to work for the guy calling the defense for the Broncos. Oof. Yeah, that's rough. Look, Florida after this game, you have a lot out in front of you. But at the same time, if you can't stop the run, and if you cannot get your offense in places to where they can succeed, remember, what does Florida do best offensively? I think Mertz has been better than I had anticipated. I mean, in this game, ladies and gentlemen, he was 25 of 30, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception. Kentucky has a good defense. So you have a turnover, but you put your team in positions to be successful, not counting that turnover. What the strength of this Florida offense is supposed to be is this rushing attack. Neither running back made it over 50 yards. In fact, if I look at team stats, Florida had less than 70 yards rushing to Kentucky's 329. You're not going to win that game. Not unless you have transcendent quarterback play. Transcendent. I truly mean transcendent. And they don't. Mertz is a good quarterback. I think there's a lot of doubters and detractors of Graham Mertz out there, and I'm not saying you need to write an apology letter. What I am saying, it might be time to move a little bit further down the line in terms of what he can do because he's not playing bad football for Florida. In fact, when I look at the Utah game and now I look at this game, Florida's 2 losses, you can't pin either of those losses on the quarterback. In fact, he's been one of the more consistent catalysts they've had. The offensive line remains an issue. And that defense, a defense that was ranked really highly, they got absolutely handled by the Kentucky rush. So that's absolutely one of the blunders of the week. 405 Kane, thank you for coming in here, my man. He says, have y'all seen the Florida 24 schedule? It's brutal. It's bad. It's bad. Truth, I said this before. You probably came in here late. We had a little bit of an issue with the home field order. I accidentally sent it to one of my family members' houses that I had signed in, and I was sending them gifts through Amazon. So I accidentally sent it to Virginia. That's the bad news. The good news is I ran to Academy. I got more Texas gear. So we have the Texas shirts, and I've reordered from Home Field, made sure that they're coming here. All the Home Field shirts that we picked out on stream, those will all be giveaway shirts. So still have Texas gear, and the Home Field stuff that we ordered will still, I reordered it. Now I just have family members in Virginia who have random Texas Longhorn gear now. So what is it? What are you going to do? 405, have y'all seen that 24 schedule is brutal. 24 schedule is brutal. Just brutal. Other blunder of the week. Guys, this wasn't the only game I got wrong this weekend, unfortunately. The other game I got wrong was a game that if you tuned into Bleacher Report when we did our analysis, I led off my segment saying, I don't feel good about this pick. In fact, I was this close to waking up I did wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweats thinking about my pick, realizing I'd made a mistake, and I wanted to email the kind people at Bleacher Report and say, can you please switch that over? Because I've picked wrong, and I didn't. I stuck with Arkansas against A&M. And that was a mistake. And I'm going to tell you where I was wrong instantly. One, A&M's a better team. We can talk about coaching questions, but at a certain point, football is football. Coaching is important. Coaching is paramount. Let's understand that. But also let's understand that at a certain point, the boys go out there and play. Nick Saban, Steve Sarkisian, Jimbo Petrino, they don't strap up. These guys, they strap up, they go play. So coaching is important, but at a certain point, you go play football. And when you put your best 11 against my best 11, if I'm Texas A&M looking across and it's Arkansas, my best 11 are better than your best 11. Let's call a spade a spade. It is what it is. That's where I was first wrong. Now, I wasn't disenfranchised going into that game that Arkansas was the more talented team, but what I did think is that they are the team that I think you feel a little bit more about for them to be steady. A&M is up and down, even when they had their starting quarterback. But what I will say, it looks like, and even before Weigman went down, these past few games, it's looking like A&M is finding things in their offense that they're like, okay, these are what we can do well. Let's move forward with it. And now they have Max Johnson, and his ceiling isn't Weigman. Weigman has got a very high ceiling. But Max Johnson is a veteran quarterback, and sometimes veteran experience, well, it can mean a lot. It can mean an absolute ton. And if we look at Max Johnson in his career, guys, I mean, he hasn't been a terrible quarterback, ever. He's not a guy that's just had an awful interception problem. 2021, he threw the most interceptions. He had 6 interceptions that year, 27 touchdown passes. But for his career, he's got 8 interceptions. Over 40 touchdown passes. He's a veteran guy. He's seen a lot of college football. He's seen a lot of different looks on defense. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, he was the quarterback that beat Arkansas last year. But still, I picked the Arkansas Razorbacks because I thought, okay, well, you've just had your quarterback hurt. I think Arkansas is probably a more dangerous team than Auburn this year, at least. That's simply because Auburn is going through all the new, right? That's simply because Auburn is going through all the new. Hugh Freeze is going to get something going there. He's absolutely going to get something going there. And so I thought you have KJ Jefferson. Rocket Sanders comes back. And Arkansas just played LSU real good. And if we get that Arkansas, I think they're going to catch A&M. Well, we didn't get that Arkansas. We got the Arkansas that consistently shows up in Jerry's world to play Texas A&M, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough. You aren't the more talented team. You have got to be the more disciplined team, and they weren't. So at the end of this, you were less talented, you were less disciplined. What did you do? I like Arkansas. They're actually a team. I have a list of teams, and it's probably a lot longer than your average college football fan, but that's because I'm a little bit of a college football nerd, in case you didn't know. I have a long list of teams I want to see do good. Because I enjoy maybe some times when I was young and I remember that team being very good, or I remember moments from my childhood and think, man, that was awesome. I'd like to see that team come back. I want to see Arkansas be a good team. But they've got some things they need to figure out, and chiefly, they need to play Arkansas football week in, week out. There are going to be times where you play opponents that are just better. Right? And it's going to be hard to establish your brand of football if you're playing an opponent that's just better. I hear you. But you cannot be a team that lets the opposing team dictate the type of football you will play and expect to yield results that you're going to find acceptable. It's just going to be a real tough thing. Another blunder of the week, Arkansas against A&M. That was real tough. Let's hit some comments real fast, and we're going to go on to some different games. Richard Yellow says, I'll tell you what happened in the Arkansas game. Bobby Petrino getting revenge. A guy can't have a mistress. And Party Hardy in Arkansas. This is a great comment. It's getting starred. That's a great comment, Richard. I love that so much. That's good. It's so hard to take you seriously in that shirt. Halloween isn't until the end of the month. Well, I'll tell you what, I might show up at SEC Connect this week in a referee outfit with the Texas shirt under it. because I'm the mediator. So we'll see. We'll see. It might be a wild week. JT Sanders looking like he's going to be good to play against Oklahoma. Hey, and that's a dude. That's a dude. One of the top tight ends in the nation. Been very high on him since he came out of high school. And yeah. It's real talented guy. OU Texas part 1 this weekend and then part 2 for the championship. Now, Randy, I actually do ascribe to this. I do. I'm going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off right now. Based on what I've seen from the Big 12, there are 2 teams that are better than every other team in that conference. I'm going to let you guess which 2 teams they are. Randy, you already know. I think everybody in here already knows. It's OU and Texas. They're the best 2 teams in the Big 12. I don't think that that's a wild take. I do think this will be a game we see played twice. I do. I really, really do. Convinced the Kansas. Man. And Bean's a good quarterback, man. Bean's a really good quarterback, but he's not Daniels. He's not Daniels. I really would have loved to see Daniels play that game. And don't pick Arkansas ever again this year. Yeah, Steven, I think I'm going to side with you on that one. Yeah. Arkansas quarterback looks like he's gotten worse instead of better. KJ Jefferson has games where it's just like, that's not you. And then the next game he comes out there and just balls out, but they needed him to be KJ in this past game, and they didn't get it. They didn't get it. That's just a simple reality. Very talented quarterback, really, really high on KJ Jefferson, but it is what it is. Me too. I live in Arkansas. I feel bad for the people I work with. Seeing them depressed in a downer mood. Boomer sooner. I 100% agree, man. I used to work with some people here in Denton that were from Arkansas. I see you wearing that UT shirt tie next up. Hey, if we want to enter into a bet, I'm all for friendly fan bets, guys. Like stuff being hung in the studio. I actually think I'm going to open up a P.O. box. That way y'all can send things and I can hang. Like I might get a little thing to put right over here and hang college football fan stuff right there that people send in. I'm all for that, man. Billy Bowman had a beautiful pick off and pick 6 this past weekend. Yeah, no, there's no doubt that they're the best 2 teams in that conference. Y'all haven't faced one good. Bean's good, Cole. I will say I do disagree here. I understand what you're saying, Cole. And I will say I meet you halfway because Milroe was still learning and he's still learning. I think he's a good quarterback, though. So I will even say I think Milroe is good in the sense of his running ability makes a defense have to worry about what he presents all the time. His passing game wasn't where it needed to be in that game, right? I grant you there. But Bean's a good quarterback. But I understand where the comment is coming from, and I don't think you're misplaced in terms of like, oh, well, he wasn't the starter. And even then, I think Bean's a really good quarterback. But Jalen Daniels is Jalen Daniels. He can make magic happen. I don't think he would have made a difference. I still picked Texas to win this game, picked them to cover this pretty easily. Although I did think it could be a slugfest at the beginning. But I was operating under the assumption Daniels was there. And so I do think that there is something to that. But I do think odd future, right? Like, I think that there's 2 sides to every story. My dad used to always tell me this. There's 2 sides to every story, and the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. And I think this is a brilliant example of this. Yeah, no, I agree, Green. I don't think Daniels wouldn't have made any difference. Texas's defense is unbelievable. It's fantastic. So 100% this needs to be true. But I also think there is a real argument that they will face the best quarterback from a passing perspective that they've faced all year this weekend in Dylan Gabriel. I think that's 100% true. It's the most dangerous passing attack Texas has faced all this season. I don't know that it's close because, like I said, Bama's still figuring out their passing attack even now. We'll talk about Bama, Mississippi State, but Bama's still figuring it out. Yeah, I think that this is a really interesting analysis to look at. Bean would start for a lot of teams. I do agree with that, Chicken. I do agree. That's why I said I hear where you're coming from, Cole, because they haven't played quote unquote the starter of Kansas, but Bean's a good quarterback. He really is. He's good. Dylan is playing out of his mind. Dylan is playing unbelievable. Dylan Gabriel is playing unbelievable football right now. Let's call a spade a spade. He's playing out of his mind. 100%. This will also be the best defense he will have faced in his whole career. True. I can agree with that, Green. I can agree with that. Look, and maybe they haven't played the quality of competition, but I always say this right here, Green. I don't disagree with you, but we saw Bama struggle with USF. That's a team they should have beat. We saw Texas struggle with a Wyoming and a Rice. And remember, Rice was they got their butt kicked by USF, who's awful. Awful. Quinn didn't look great in that Rice game. So, at a certain level, if you're out there and you're balling, you're balling. Quinn looked good in that Rice game, don't get me wrong, but I think that proves the point. At a certain level, even if you're playing a team you should beat, are you playing well? And Dylan Gabriel has answered that question, yes. He's playing really well. Regardless of quality of opponent, he's playing really well. Because I can pull other games where maybe whoever's favorite team, they have also faced a quality of opponent that hasn't been good. And look, I'll use my team right off the rip. That way, it's all in the interest of fairness here. Bama USF. Bama USF. Bama USF. That's inexcusable. 100%. I don't disagree with this, Cole. That Bama defense is unreal. Unreal. Yeah, that Bama defense is unreal right now. I mean, you see what they did to that Ole Miss team that just put up 700 yards against LSU? Don't get me wrong, that Oklahoma defense is really good. They're a really good defense. That's actually, I'm not trying to take away from Oklahoma's defense when I say that, because I think Oklahoma's defense, the jump they've taken from last year to this year is unbelievable. But let's go ahead and move forward. Let's talk about Alabama, Mississippi State, because I know one of the things that everybody's going to be talking about is, but Jalen Milroe only threw 12 times. He had 164 yards. I'm going to tell you why I'm not necessarily concerned about that. And in order for me to do that, I need to take you back to a game that happened a few years ago when Alabama met Cincinnati in the playoffs. Bryce Young went 17 of 28, 181 yards, 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. Now, he had less than 200 yards. When I look at this game, Jalen Milroe, 164 yards, 10 of 12. Now, why do I cross-compare these two games? Because of the scheme, a 3-3-5. If you're Alabama, why are you going to throw into the teeth of a 3-3-5, especially when your running backs are getting it how they want? Jace McClellan was getting it how he wanted. Roydell Williams was having himself a game. They just didn't really stick to the run with any one of those guys, right? Alabama's running back room is in a position right now where between Jalen Milroe, Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, and we're going to see more Jam Miller, they're spreading the carries around. Alabama came out in this game, and in the first quarter, they had a little bit of issues, but after that first quarter, there was no more issues. And I'm going to tell you something that's standing out to me right now. Jalen Milroe is progressing. Jalen Milroe is absolutely progressing as a quarterback, ladies and gentlemen, and it is a lot of fun to watch. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that progression is going to lead him to throw to 450 yards a game. That's not my point. My point is watch Jalen Milroe, the previous 2 games, really this previous game, and as the game goes on, and then watch whenever he first started. He is making good reads now. And I know everybody is saying, anything for Americans after this? I know everybody is saying that he's a one-read quarterback. That's not true. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Crater. What design? Design anything for Americans again? I'm not sure who this is. Oh, well. OU is an average. Yeah, Crater, I'm not sure what design you're talking about, man, because there's no designs up. I got the overlay from StreamYard, but that's just StreamYard overlay. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about, man. Yeah, I have no idea what he's talking about, but hopefully he finds the. It's a bot. Got it. I'm sitting here wondering, Richard. I'm like, what design? I was like, I don't have any designs here. Cool. All right. Hey, that's what happens when you do this live, ladies and gentlemen. I can't control what happens. But let's move forward. Alabama's defense against this Mississippi State offense. Now, Mississippi State's offense has not really been the Mississippi State offense that they had previous years, right? Rest in peace to Mike Leach. They're going from an air raid offense to a more pro-style offense, and it's really taken its toll. Will Rogers last week, though, threw for nearly 500 yards. Tulu Griffin last week had almost 300 yards receiving. Tulu Griffin this week had 21 yards receiving. Will Rogers this week had 100 yards through the air, 15 of 27, 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions, and a QBR of 19.1. The Alabama defense is holding up their end of the bargain. And the Alabama offense is starting to find themselves, but they are still very much a work in progress. I like a lot of what I've seen from that offense. The offensive line, they got to continue playing more consistent football because you got an opponent next week that's got a defensive front that's got all the names on it. Now, I think that Texas game was a great prep for Texas A&M because that Texas defensive front is ridiculous. Sweat, Byron Murphy, I mean, they're grading ridiculously high right now. I think that will help Alabama, but there's no doubt about it. You have got to continue going forward. Guys, before we move any further, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Shady Mile Bourbon. If you're going to the Texas-Oklahoma game this weekend, or you're going to enjoy it at home with friends or family, and you're wondering, what should my drink of choice be? Go ahead and give Shady Mile Bourbon a try. We have the website down here linked in the bottom scroller. They're sponsoring the channel for this month. Big shout out and thank you to Shady Mile Bourbon. As always, guys, if you're going to be drinking on a Saturday, enjoy yourself, but drink responsibly. I've lost way too many friends to drinking and driving. It's all good to have fun. Well, let's do so responsibly. That way we can continue having fun the next week. So special shout out to Shady Mile Bourbon. They've got the rye for y'all. They've got the wheat for y'all. Great stuff over there. I enjoyed a glass this weekend, and I think you will as well. So if you do, go over there. Let them know I sent you. But Alabama, another big win this week. And I think it looks even better after we saw Ole Miss do that to LSU. And you just saw Alabama's defense handle that Ole Miss offense. Absolutely handle it. Absolutely handle that Ole Miss offense. So Alabama's defense, I think, is sensational. They're finding themselves. They have 2 pass rushers right now. Both Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell are posting above a 20% win rate. I think they're one of the only duos in college football that's posting above a 20% win rate. It's really, really impressive. Completely agree with this, Jacob. And this is the point that I think I was trying to get to earlier when I said the 3-3-5. Why are you going to throw into the teeth of the 3-3-5? If you can run it against the 3-3-5 and get where you want to go, run it. Right? Run the ball through that 3-3-5. You're going to be perfectly fine. That's exactly what they did. But the one thing I am seeing from Jalen Milroe is the growth in terms of his progressions. The young man is genuinely going from read 1 to read 2 to read 3. Like he's evolving as a quarterback right in front of us. And I said it before, not going to say that that's, Jalen Milroe showing everybody he's going to be 450 yards a game, but it's a progression. and he has got a huge arm. I think he's got one of the biggest arms in college football in terms of being able to push the ball downfield. If you watch the Ole Miss game last week, Alabama was on their own 30-yard line, and he tried a deep shot to Isaiah Bond. He missed Isaiah Bond by about 10 yards, overshot him, but he hit the 10-yard line on the other side of the field. The guy has got a cannon attached to his body. Bama just needs to figure it out. Luckily, the offense is starting to get it figured out. The run game is coming together. That offensive line, that is the biggest question I still have for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We're going to hit some comments, and then we're going to go forward. Hacker, my man, thank you for being in here. He says, I would feel a lot better if we had a couple more weeks before playing A&M defensive line, but of course the schedule is what it is. Hacker, I actually couldn't agree more, man. I actually 100% agree with this. Coach Smook and I were talking about this on the phone this morning. That Texas A&M defensive front, it's really good. And I'm going to give you some numbers right now. I'm going to go ahead and give y'all some numbers about this Texas A&M defensive front. They're number 1 in tackles for loss. They're number 1 in sack percentage. They're number 2 in sacks, 3 in third down defense. They're number 5 in total defense. They're number 8 in total yards allowed per play, 11th in first down defense, 12th in yards per carry allowed. Now, here's where you can attack them. They're 20th in running defense, and they're 32nd in scoring defense, with being the 50th defense in pass efficiency. I think Alabama's key to success here is they have to have that offensive line hold. But if the offensive line holds and the running game starts going, you get those safeties creeping forward, boom, hit them over the top. I think that's going to be the way to do it. And I do like Alabama's wide receivers this year, Hacker. I think they're playing at a much better level than they were last year in terms of being able to get separation and get separation with the routes. That I think is really nice. And we're seeing some pre-snap motion, which I love. Yeah. I don't, no. Can we at least agree that USC's defensive coordinator has blackmail on Lincoln? Well, we're going to talk about USC. Let's move forward to that game. Colorado scares USC. And this was wild, guys. USC goes up 14 in the first quarter. And I think if I would have polled the average college football fan, they would have said USC is going to run away with this game. They're up 14. They have an offense that's real tricky to stop. And Colorado, though their offensive passing attack is fantastic, the defense is still very much a work in progress, which is to be expected. But this was a Colorado team that, much like we talked about with that Baylor team earlier, how do you win? How do you lose? Sometimes that question is just as important as the result in and of itself. And whenever we ask that question of the Colorado Buffaloes in this game, they never stopped fighting. They never stopped believing. First off, what a battle from the quarterback position. We saw Caleb Williams, 30 for 40, 403 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Across the aisle, you saw Shadur Sanders, 30 of 45, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 interception. Both offenses had a wide receiver absolutely go off. Washington for USC, 117 yards to 1 touchdown. How about an absolute coming out party for Amarian Miller for Colorado? 7 receptions, 196 yards, 1 touchdown. By the way, Nino, our very own Nino's Corner, who we do the SEC Connect with, who you can catch me on Bleacher Report, that's his cousin. So he was real happy in all of our group chats this week. He was very happy. Colorado took it to USC because Colorado didn't stop fighting. And if you're asking, what does that mean for Colorado moving forward? They're showing you, coming off of last week, which I do find to be important, because the week before, Oregon straight up spanked Colorado. Oregon beat them down and did it however they wanted, in whichever manner they wanted. It didn't matter. You had to wonder, how are you going to respond after a beatdown like that? Because remember, emotions are high in Boulder right now. Hype is really high, deservedly so. I don't think many people thought Colorado would be this good, but hype is very high. How do you handle the roller coasters of emotions from being on top of the world to getting absolutely blasted by Oregon? How do you respond? I think if we were being honest about this game, we all knew that it would be easier to attack this USC defense than it would be to attack this Oregon defense. And that was 100% correct. But how do you respond? More so, how do you respond coming off of that game and you go down by 14 early against USC? I think there's a lot of people out there that if I told you what I just said, they would have said Colorado got destroyed 2 weeks in a row, but they didn't. They didn't quit fighting. And for you to be a team that just kept fighting, that means something. And I think if you're looking at the rest of their schedule, look, I'm not saying that the performance they gave against USC means that every other game they play, it's going to be a win. Colorado's got a tough schedule in front of them. But they're showing you there's a tenacity, a want to, and a nastiness with that team. They're not going to quit fighting. If you're asking me, Ty, has Coach Prime successfully built a foundation to which he can actually build something impressive? The answer is yes. This year for Colorado is not about making it to the college football playoffs. If they did that, that would have been incredible. But I was one of the voices that was very high on Colorado. I remained high on Colorado. For those of you that have been around the channel, you'll know this isn't anything new. But I was one of the voices saying, hey, I'm really high on the Buffaloes, but I don't think they're making the college football playoffs. There's just so much work that needs to be done from when they get from where they're at before Coach Prime took them over to where these other teams are. That's the truth. There's a lot more work to be done. And so this year for Colorado, it's not about did you make the college football playoffs? It's not even about did you win the Pac-12? That's all fluff. That's all extra candy. And candy's great. I love candy. But the real question here, did you create an environment to where now you can genuinely look at recruits and say, no, there is 100% reason why you should come here? Other teams can't look across and say, oh, well, he's never coached a Power 5 team before. That can't happen. I did so, and I did so quite successfully. Coach Prime made the foundation. That was the biggest concern for Colorado this year, and he's answered it. What they do going forward is going to be phenomenally interesting. Because if they continue to recruit, if they do well, this is a team that you have got to watch out for. There's no doubt about it. We just saw this weekend some of the young guns show out, and I really want y'all to think about this right now. If you're a young player, all the attention in college football right now is at Colorado, and they're having a lot of fun. On top of that, their young players are going crazy. Amarian Miller, almost 200 yards. Kermani McLean came out there, handled business. Dylan Edwards out there balling out. Colorado's got young freshmen making plays. So if you are a 4-star, a 5-star guy, and you're wondering, where should I go? You're seeing Colorado win games, play USC really close, lost by 7, and they're playing young players. And one of the things you're seeing is that this hype, it's legit. It's legit. So Colorado, in many instances, and I know there are going to be people that don't like hearing this, in many ways, they've already passed the test of what they needed to show. They already have. They are a significantly improved team that knows what they're doing, knows where they want to go, and they're having fun. And they've caught the attention of young players. And recruiting is a major part of college football. So that's the great for Colorado. That's the good for Colorado. But now we need to take a look at the other side of this. Because as good as Colorado did, as happy as I think you need to be, because I think you look ahead, you like your chances against Arizona State and Stanford. I think you can win both of those. I mean, you have a schedule you can get some more wins out of. They're going to be tough, but you can get wins. 100%. No doubt. Let's talk about USC. Because this is where I ask a familiar question. Is USC good enough to not only win a national championship, to win a playoff game? Well, let's start in the areas where I know they're good enough. If I look at this USC offense is good enough to win a national championship. Yeah. No doubt. Caleb Williams can be a quarterback that can take an offense and lead them to what I would call an anomaly national championship. Now, what do I mean when I say an anomaly national championship? If you've been around the channel, there's a few figures I've repeated several times. It's because before the year started, I was curious. How good does your defense have to be? Because I kept thinking about USC and I kept thinking, okay, well, if this offense hits its stride, they're going to be great. But how good does your defense need to be to realistically win a national championship? And the results that I found were incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, since 2000, the average scoring defense rank of the team to win a national championship is 8.6. If I remove the largest outlier from 2000, which was 2010 Auburn, the average defensive rank of scoring defense is 6.5. So when we're asking what wins championships, defense. Unfortunately, defense. Yeah. That's the answer to this question. Defense. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have a top 10 defense. There are several instances of teams not having a top 10 defense. In fact, we can look at 2007 LSU. We can look at 2010 Auburn. We can look at 2014 Ohio State. 2016 Clemson came in at 10, so they passed. They have a top 10. 2019 LSU, 32nd. 2020 Bama came in at 13th. You don't have to have the number one defense. You don't have to have a top 10 defense. But you cannot rely on being a one-dimensional team. I would also point your attention to this fact right here. That 2020 Bama team, that's the Mac Jones year where he threw for like 77% completion percentage, 4,700 yards, and Devontae Smith went for almost 2,000 yards through the air. So yes, the defense wasn't a top 10 defense. That offense was terrifying. And they didn't have Jalen Waddle. He went down halfway through the year. Yeah, that offense gets Jalen Waddle. They might hang 100 on whoever they want. Just being real. That 2020 Bama offense was that good. They still had the 13th best defense. 2016 Clemson. Great offense. Still had a 10th best defense. 2019 LSU. Maybe the greatest offense we've seen in modern college football. 32nd in the nation. So that's an anomaly. But the lowest ranked defense to win a national championship is 2010 Auburn, 53rd in the nation, allowing 24.1 points per game. Do you know who they had as their quarterback? Cam Newton. One of the biggest anomalies in football, period. Not just high school football, not JUCO football, not college football, period. So let's refocus back on USC with all of the information that I've just laid at your feet. Can USC win a national championship? If that defense plays the way it did against Colorado, the answer is no. Unfortunately, no. That's not a defense that you can win a national championship with. It's not. Now, understand, if you're a USC fan, you do have players who are playing well. Bear Alexander's playing well. But your defense from top to bottom, it's not good enough to win a national championship, or at the very least, you can't roll in with that defense that Colorado scored 41 points on. And remember, this is the part that makes it worse to me. Colorado was a team that didn't have a vaunted rushing attack. Colorado has been trying to establish a running attack. So if you're USC and you go up by 14 and you know this is one of the top passing offenses in the nation, and they don't really rush the ball all too well right now as they're still trying to figure that out, you know what they're going to do. If you were Alex Grinch, you knew what was coming at you when you went up by 14. They had to pass the ball to get back in the game. So how the hell do you allow them 41 points? I get it. I have said so many times that this Colorado offense, it's legit. This passing attack, It's prolific. I had someone come on my channel, Truth, you'll attest to this because you commented under them. So I want to hear you attest to this right now. I had someone comment on my channel that I was way out of line for calling the Colorado passing offense prolific. And they didn't say way out of line, in fairness. They were very fair with their assessment. They just didn't agree with me, right? They said, there's no way you just called Colorado's passing offense prolific. Completely respectful in terms of like how they approached an argument to me. It wasn't anything like that. I didn't want to frame it like that. But that passing attack for Colorado, it is prolific. You look at what Shedeur Sanders is doing. Look at what Shedeur Sanders is doing. That passing offense is dangerous. It's because Shedeur is a brilliant decision maker. Like his bad decisions, it's so interesting, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, and I apologize for everybody in here. It's give me 30 seconds, if you please. His downside, right? He has one trait that is a little bit of a negative, but it's not really. And let me explain. His quote-unquote negative decision-making is maybe holding the ball a little bit too long and maybe taking a sack. But he's not going to have negative decision-making where he's going to throw interceptions or throw it in a spot where the whole time the ball's there, you're just like hand on heads like, oh my God, why'd you make that pass? Even if it works, don't ever make that throw again. You threw it into triple coverage. That's not Shedeur. When he's deciding where to throw the ball, his decision-making is impeccable. If you had to knock him, he wants to make a play so bad with his arm that sometimes he'll sit in the pocket a little bit too long. Very easy to correct. Very easy to correct. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, if you're Alex Grinch, and Truth, back me up on this as well, you know what's coming. You're up by 14. They pass the ball real well. How do you let them score 41 points when you know what's coming? You know they're going to throw the ball. I don't get it. I don't get Alex Grinch. I've said this before. If there was an area where the scheme would work, it would be the Pac-12. And I do need to address this, because we heard USC players say it's not the scheme, we're letting our defensive coordinator down. And I'm not in there. Maybe that is the case. Maybe Alex Grinch schemed up a perfect game plan. Maybe he schemed up a perfect game plan and the players failed. But do you want to know why I'm still not buying that? Because it is your job to, as a teacher, to understand how best to teach the lesson so that your students digest it. That's your job as a teacher, to teach. This isn't a problem that reared its head in this game. If Alex Grinch's defense was pitching shutouts and doing great stuff last year, this year, and then this game happened, I would be inclined to meet the players halfway and say, you know what, maybe you guys just didn't have a good game. That's not what we saw. We saw the same struggles from this Alex Grinch defense that we saw at Ohio State, that we saw at Oklahoma, and that we saw at USC. We've seen this defensive scheme hit the Big Ten before. It did not work. Can USC win a national championship with this defense? Not if they play the way they do. I want USC to be good. In fact, many of you on this channel will remember I was saying this before Clay Helton got fired. I want USC to be good. I really want USC to be good. But they are never going to be the team they can be because they're a part-time employee. Simply put, you don't get a part-time employee to do a full-time employee's job. You just don't. Unless you're one of those companies that thinks you can get away with paying your employees less. But we're not here to talk about the semantics of that argument. Don't think about that one too much. Just accept it at face value and move forward. I'm not here to give an economics talk. I don't want USC to be good. Are you kidding me? Yeah, Lori, but this goes back a long time. This is even before Clay Helton was there. I want USC to be good. I want to want them to be good. I'm fine. Hey, all fair, all fair. We all have teams that were like, hey, I kind of want y'all to be good. For me, my problem is I want a lot of teams to be good in college football, because if more teams are good, that's better for me. One, as a massive college football fan, that just means more great college football I get to watch. Two, as a content creator, that just means more great college football I get to talk about. So it's a win-win for me. Once again, don't think about the economics behind that analogy. I'm sorry, Mike, but I just saw. No, it is. I got another one that's not going to block the logo as much. I didn't plan that one as well. I don't know. I want to hit some comments and then we're going to move forward. I hope Coach Sanders focuses on his team's defensive line and offensive line. That's the nucleus of great teams. Great teams can have a marginal quarterback, but they can't have marginal. Oh, great comment. Great comment. And David, I think a great example that proves your point, that really drives it home. Look back at those Bryce Young teams. I mean, Bryce Young is one of the just wildest college football players I've ever seen play for Alabama. That offensive line was terrible, and he walks away from the Crimson Tide having not been the starter for a national championship. USC and Colorado displayed the two worst defenses in college football Saturday. Grinch must have had some salacious. He cost Tebow 2 natties at OU. And yeah, look, it's one thing for Colorado to not have a great defense right now, right? Like they're excused. You just piece together a team through the transfer portal. I don't expect all of your team to be great. But USC, there's no excuse to be that bad right now. There's just none. There's just none. All right, we're going to move forward into Kansas, Texas, because Texas played very well. Greg says everyone looks good in burnt orange tie. Well, Greg, I appreciate the compliment. I feel a little bit naked right now, but you know that's certainly pepping up. It's certainly pepping up my spirits right now, so I do appreciate that. Well, Caleb is as good as he is. He will never win a conference title. Just sad. And yeah, I think there's a serious question. There's a whole discussion to be had. Will USC win the pack? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, because Washington's playing great. And I'll tell you who one of the most underrated teams in the nation is right now. How is Washington State not ranked higher? How are they not ranked higher? Cameron Ward is balling. They have a ranked win. They have a top 15 win. I don't know. Washington State, that they're underrated. We need to hit a few more topics though. So guys, we're going to go a little bit over our hour today, right? We're going to go a little bit over our hour today. We're going to go into Kansas, Texas, and then we're going to finish it out with just how good is OU. So Kansas, Texas, let's talk about this. We talk about how good this Texas defense is, and I think this really proves it. I said earlier in this stream, I think Bean's a good quarterback. We've seen him play good college football before. He was 9 of 21 for 136 yards, 6.5 average, 1 touchdown, and a QBR of 17.2. If we look at this, the Kansas rushing attack was really largely held in check. They got some positive plays, but for the most part, they weren't able to really contend. And this is one of those things we just talked about with the USC-Colorado game. Yeah, Kansas was able to go for 124 yards rushing on 25 attempts, averaging 5 per. But at the point where Texas goes up 10-0 in the first quarter, Texas is going to be perfectly fine with allowing Kansas to kind of chip away with the run so long as they keep everything in front of them. So those are kind of billowed stats, right? Texas is going to be all too happy saying, fine, run the ball on us all you like. We'll just play to keep everything in front of us, and we'll call it a day. That's exactly what they did. They handled business. They got out of there. Now, in this game, you saw the emergence of a player who has been very good, who I have said I think is going to be a fantastic player for the Longhorns. And we really started to see him come alive during Wyoming. And that's Jonathan Brooks. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the big catalysts to this Texas offense, is Jonathan Brooks. Because I don't think many people would have expected right now, if I asked, which is the part of Texas that's better, the offense or the defense, I think a lot of people would have answered the offense. I don't know that that's the case right now. I think their defense might actually be better than the offense, and that's not to send shots at the Texas offense. That's just to give flowers where it's due. That Texas defense is wild at every level now. I think there are certainly ways you can attack it, but your ways to attacking it are few and far between, and you've got to do a lot of things right. There's ways to attack every defense out there. No defense is perfect. Let's get that understood, right? Bama, Georgia, historically, you want to attack Bama and Georgia, test them deep. That's the catalyst, right? That's the one thing you can do. It's been what's shown. There's ways to attack this Texas defense, but you've got to do everything else very well. You have got to hold up on the front to be able to attack them. So when I look at this, the emergence of Jonathan Brooks is one of the biggest pieces for this Texas offense, because they need somebody to continue taking pressure away from this passing game. If the Texas Longhorns are in a position where they feel like they can rush the ball and win rushing the ball, that's going to affect safeties. That's going to affect the way you have to load the box against this Texas offensive line and against these running backs, and that will open up this passing game. And the problem is they have a wide receiver room that's got a whole lot of talent. And I think Jonathan Brooks right now is the catalyst of this offense. If I'm just being honest, I think right now, Jonathan Brooks might be the catalyst to this offense. 21 carries last week, 218 yards, averaged over 10 a pop, which is wild. I covered him when he was in high school, and you had to know he was going to be an exceptional player. When he was in high school, you had to know he was going to be an exceptional player. So Texas's offense is really starting to find some of the depth. And what I mean when I say that is that rushing attack, because I think that's going to be the biggest help to Texas's offense overall, is being able to establish that rushing attack. Defensively, I don't know what more needs to be said. The Texas defensive front is very, very good. Their secondary, Jahdae Barron, is playing an unbelievable brand of football right now. He's really impressive. You look, the linebacker play there right now is unbelievable. Jalen Ford and Benda are playing great football. Plus, you have Anthony Hill as a true freshman playing really well. Your edges are coming together. Your interior is as good as you could want. This is a good Texas team. This is a very good Texas team. And they got a good win last week. I know, I would have wanted to see Jalen Daniels too. But this is a very good Texas team. And with that in mind, know that this is a very good Texas team. We now need to answer this. Just how good is Oklahoma? Last week on Monday, we were talking about a quote from Barstool Sports, because they went viral online for saying Oklahoma football is not good. And I don't know how you watch OU this year and come away with the takeaway that they're not good. Everything you've seen has shown this is a good football team. Now, if Barstool would have wanted to ask the question, hey, I can tell Oklahoma's a good football team. How good? I don't know. Like, what's their ceiling? I don't know. That's a fair question. That's a legitimate discussion that we can actually have and move forward. But saying, oh, OU's not good, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I mean, OU is playing good football. The offense is better than it was last year. The defense is exponentially better than it was last year. And I know some people are going to say, look at who they've played. I don't think that you're totally wrong. But once again, I've said this time and time again. We would have been happy if OU would have beaten some of these teams 40-0. They're straight up spanking some of these teams, right? They're beating teams they should beat, but they're not just beating them, they're blasting them. They are destroying them, dismantling them limb from limb. So it's obvious that the team is better. Just watch the Oklahoma defense play and look at how much quicker they're playing. Look at how much more confident they're playing. Look at how much more competitive depth they can turn to. It's not just one or two guys carrying that defense right now. They have got a lot of names playing high-quality football. The question isn't, is Oklahoma a good football team? Because the answer to that question is obviously yes. They're a good football team. It's obvious that they're a good football team. If you're asking what's Oklahoma's ceiling, that's the conversation. That I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I hear you, Green, but I also think that they're like, once again, Bama. Bama didn't do that against USF, right? Bama had a team they should have beat the brakes off of, and they didn't show up. Oklahoma's showing up every time. That means something. That absolutely means something. Now, once again, I think that right there leads us to the other conversation. But Oklahoma is obviously a much improved football team. And I think there are ways where they can find success against this Texas defense because their wide receiver room is pretty good. It's pretty darn good. Pretty good is an understatement. The battle of the Oklahoma wide receivers and the Texas DBs is going to be great. But OU is going to win some of those battles. The one question you have for Oklahoma right now, and I've seen some Oklahoma fans even put it in there, your running attack is not what we thought it would be, which is super interesting because Oklahoma's had a higher time of possession this year than they have last year. They're retaining the ball longer, but you're not rushing the ball as well. That's going to be key. And especially in this game right here, the ability to run the football is going to be key. And I'm not saying that if you're Oklahoma, you should rely on running into the teeth of that Texas defense to get a win. That's not my point. My point is if you don't at least present them that as saying, hey, we are willing to run into the teeth of your defense, they're going to pin their ears back and they're going to be on go mode. That's not what you want. That's not what you want. Now, luckily, you have talented running backs. Barnes is very talented. I don't know the injury status of him. Sawchuk, very talented. But the rushing attack needs their best game this week against Texas. Now, we're not going to start a preview in this game. But this has been such an interesting conversation to me, piece to me. How good is Oklahoma? Are they good? Obviously, they're good. You just watch them play. They're good. Like that's a non-issue. They're good. How good? We'll find out. We'll certainly find out. But they're light years better than they were last year. They're light years better than they were last year. And I don't think that's a question. They're much better than they were last year. They're much better on defense. They're much better. I think they're better offensively. I think they would be leagues better. OU, I think y'all would be leagues better. If you had the rushing attack you had last year with this passing attack, oh boy, that offense would be dangerous. Really dangerous. Really, really dangerous. Thomas says we might have the Butkus winner. Yeah, hey, no doubt y'all might. I think that Texas has got a guy that will be up there as well. I think Jalen Ford and Stutzman will be representing the Big 12 for that award. But I think that it would be criminal for Stutzman not to be present for that award ceremony and up for that award. It'd be criminal. He's playing unbelievable football. Well, DG is going to be fine, man. I mean, y'all didn't have a quarterback last year, so anything's going to be better than that. DG is going to be fine. Who do I think wants it more? I think both teams want it more, man. Or I think both teams want it. I don't know who wants it more. I definitely think you're on to something. Right. I definitely think you're on to something in terms of like, it's certainly more fuel to use to be like, oh, well, they got it on us last year. Let's get it back. That certainly is more fuel, but I wouldn't say that necessarily means that they want it more than Texas. I think Texas wants this every bit as bad as Oklahoma does. I think both teams want it. Both teams realize that you win this game right here. So long as you handle business the rest of the season, you can find your way to the college football playoffs. But I do think that these two teams meet again. I think that they play twice this year. And I think that'd be one of the best things for college football. Guys, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. It is 11:12. I go on Bleacher Report in just over an hour. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. Do all those things you do for the YouTube. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're wondering what you're going to be drinking on this weekend and you're a bourbon fan, head on over to shadymilebourbon.com. Shadymile.com. You can see it down in the scroll. Sponsor of the channel. Very proud to be working with them. Very thankful to be working with them because they help the lights stay on here. Speaking of helping the lights stay on, if you have not used an order from homefield.com, head over to Homefield. They've got you covered for, in my opinion, the best vintage wear in all of college football fan apparel. Now, don't do what I do. If you're going to order for Homefield, make sure it gets sent to your address. Don't put in someone else's address. But if you do that, you're already better than I. But if you are at Homefield, use code ATTS15. It'll get you 15% off your first order, and it helps the channel out. So yes, it does help me out, but we all win. We get a little bit of profit from it. You guys get an awesome discount, and you get some fan apparel. A win-win all the way around. Guys, we are going to be back this evening for our recap stream with all of the guys. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to go into heavy Texas OU unless we get taken there. Tonight, we might. Who knows? But we're going to go. Anthony, I will tie off topic since I'm actually not a Yankees fan. For me, Anthony, I'm just going to be 100. I like hats. Like, I love hats. I have a massive hat collection. And so like I have a White Sox hat over there. I got the Yankees hat. I had a Mets hat. Like, I just like hats. I actually, and this is going to be a hot take, I'm not a big baseball fan. I have a lot of respect for the game. I love the history of baseball. I think it's a fascinating game to read into. I actually enjoy reading about the history of baseball more than I enjoy watching baseball, but I can't watch a baseball game. The last time I was at a baseball game, I ended up leaving in the 4th inning because I was just so bored. I couldn't do it anymore. That's one of the only sports I can't watch. So unfortunately, Anthony, I have no idea anything about, like, I don't even know who's what. I don't know who's winning. I have no idea. I don't even know who's on what team anymore. But baseball is a cool sport. I wish I was more into it. I'm just not. I've tried so hard. I didn't even enjoy playing it. I was so bored. Pole assassin. Okay. Fun to play. Yeah, see, I know a lot of people who are like this, Truth. A lot of people who are like this. Even I think I'm a bit too ADD, though. Like, I have to be going. That's why, I don't know if you've noticed, I have fidget things, or you'll see me with pins in my hand all the time, spinning them. Because I'm like, let me tell you what, I'd have been a good candidate for Ritalin. The doctor missed one on me. That pharmacist missed a payday whenever they were handing out the Ritalin like they were Pez. Yeah. They missed one on me because I'm so ADD it hurts. So you're saying you saw last year? All right, we're going to get out of here, guys. I'll see y'all this evening on tonight's live stream. I'll be on the Bleacher Report here in the next hour talking about Alabama, Mississippi State over there. Other than that, you'll know that we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be transitioning to more pregame stuff for this weekend. And yeah, it is what it is. But all right, y'all, take it easy. Have a good day. We'll see you this evening. That's it. Peace.